Beth and CJ. Beth, can we start with you? I would just love you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you, please.
Oh, thank you. Well, I am Beth Worsdell. I am author and host and founder of the Witty Writers Show, where I interview lots of authors from all over different backgrounds, every genre. I'm an author of science fiction and fantasy novels, and also romantic comedies recently, as CJ knows. So yes, I'm a busy lady, and I've still got 2 children at home. I just don't know how I juggle everything, to be honest.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, that's what writers are. Writers wear 5 million hats, and somehow we juggle it all, and it works. So thank you so much for being here and being our host. And CJ, come on over and tell us about yourself, please.
Well, I'm so excited to be here at the amazing BookFest Fall 2023. I'm an Air Force veteran, multi-genre author, event producer for Black Chateau, Books That Make You, and the BookFest, of course, project manager for BookBrush, and event producer for BookMarcon. Super stoked to be here. You guys are amazing. Thank you for having me.
All right, ladies. I know there's a lot of questions, so without further ado, I'm going to get out of here, and you can bring in Lee and Sarah and begin the live author chats.
Yay!
Bye, Desiree. We'll see you in a bit.
Thank you.
Are you ready, Beth?
I am so excited. I am so excited. So we've got Sarah Prager, who's author of Queer There and Everywhere, Rainbow Revolutions, and A Child's Introduction to Pride. And we've also got coming on, there she is. Hello, darling.
Yeah.
Yay. We've also got coming on Lee Wind, writer of Red, Green, and Blue and White, No Way, They Were Gay, and the upcoming The Gender Binary Is a Big Lie. Hello, my darlings. Thank you so much for coming on the BookFest event. How are you?
We're doing
great. Good. Thanks for having us.
Happy to be here.
Can I just say that you've absolutely blown my mind. I was watching your live part, and oh my gosh, I had absolutely no idea that so many historical people were actually gay, bi, trans. My mind is completely blown. And I have to say, I am so glad that you're coming on today, because my daughter is bi, and I'm going to be so thrilled to be able to share your books with her, to show her that so many successful people have been, so oh my God, mind blowing in our history. But before I go there, I have to say we've got so many questions for you, and CJ has been fantastic because she's been writing them all down. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to go straight in and ask you some questions.
Fingers are on fire.
She's like,
yeah, it was like I was typing away. Yeah.
Okay, so question 1. What do you feel about the anti-trans drag bills currently being proposed?
Certainly against them.
They're awful.
Oh my gosh. It's I think we're rolling back in time, having seen what our history is, with so many anti-trans laws that were repealed, anti-cross-dressing laws that were repealed. Seeing these come back is devastating, and they're unconstitutional. They're discriminatory, and to make trans people the scapegoat of the moment is unfortunate, reprehensible. It's not a group that deserves this for any reason, but LGBTQ people have been targeted through history just because of our connection to our identity marker being related to sexuality. So, we get the label of, perversion associated with us, just for that.
if I can just add yes to everything Sarah said, and I just want to add that because it's happening all over the country, it can seem like, oh my gosh, this is a groundswell movement of protest, but it's really not. They did a study of book banning, and they found that like a huge percentage of the books were being banned by just 11 people. Like more than half of the book bans were 11 individuals. I mean, I know 11 people. We all know 11 people. Like that's not a groundswell. That's like a very cynical, coordinated attempt to make it seem like there's a groundswell of protest about trans lives and people doing drag performance, but there really isn't. And I think that we all need to kind of be aware that this intention to throw trans people and gender nonconforming people under the bus is really about power and about politics, and it's not about safety. And we have to, really recognize that we need to be allies to each other and not let it happen.
It's really using LGBTQ people as a wedge issue, like same-sex marriage was used to turn out the Republican vote in the, for the Bush elections when same-sex marriage was on the ballot in many different states with constitutional amendments. And so it kind of like can, with misinformation and disinformation right now, trying to say that these folks are these same talking points being repeated by these particular people is harming us around the country.
Do you think that the media to a certain extent is not helping with this type of thing? I mean, obviously, if they hear about a few people banning books or a few people trying to, push back time on trans people and that type of thing, do you think that that's not helping, that they're blowing it all out of proportion?
Yes, I think the media is not helping. I think that they, there's a focus on the negative stories and the bad stories, and there isn't really a focus on sort of the incredible things that queer and trans people have done in history. And I think that that's why I get so excited about Sarah's books.
and I about Lee's.
Yeah, because it's like we weren't taught any of this. So I think that, we have to kind of, you're not going to necessarily get it in school. So that's where these kinds of books can be really helpful. And we're not, I'm not Indiana Jones. I'm not discovering manuscripts in, temples and stealing them. I'm just going to the library and reading really long books for adults and trying to sort of synthesize it, and or going online and reading, the 200 letters between Gandhi and Herman Kallenbach. That's anybody can read. It's public domain. So it's really that's where I think books can be so important.
I agree, and I want to thank both of you because your books are absolutely amazing, and the fact that you're enlightening people is just absolutely tremendous. I'm going to go with question number 2. Did you run into issues during school such as bullying, etc.? And I'm going to go with you first, Lee.
Yeah, I did. I was a real nerd, and I was tall, but I was scrawny, and it was actually really interesting because I just had to write a definition of queer for my upcoming book. And my editor brought up the point, like, well, should you talk about how for some people they're still uncomfortable with this term? And I think that because people my age and older remember it being used as a slur against us. And yet it's really been reclaimed by the community. And but it was an interesting sort of dynamic. I think that, I've done a lot of healing and a lot of therapy and a lot of time, but really, I mean, I spent 14 years in the closet. So it was really, really hard. And generally my classmates didn't make it any easier. So I think that the hard thing for me was thinking I was the only person ever in the history of the world to be a guy that liked other guys. And I don't think that kids today can feel that way because it's just, there's too much. Now it's sort of, but it's now the lie is, oh, well, it's all brand new. There weren't gender nonconforming people in history, or there weren't men who loved men or women who loved women or people who loved without regard to gender in history. And that's completely false.
Yeah, agreed. What about you, Sarah?
I was not really bullied that much in school, and I have acceptance from my family from the beginning. I came out at 14, and yeah, I know we have a lot of questions to get to, so I think I will agree with everything that Lee said after his answer, and let us go on to the others.
But Sarah, I'm so happy to hear that. I just have to interject and say
I
that's
know,
so wonderful.
my only thing was not seeing representation because same-sex marriage was not legal in a single U.S. state when I was in high school. Ellen DeGeneres was the sole out celebrity. Social media, Facebook hadn't been invented, let alone TikTok, etc. So teaching myself queer history, I think I've said this, in just now in our presentation, but I really teaching myself queer history is where I started to understand that I wasn't the only person in the world who had ever felt this way. So just finding that myself online. And so I think a lot of folks won't just go out and find that for themselves, which is why we have to be teaching it.
Yeah, agreed. And I have to say, as I said earlier, my daughter is bi, and luckily, she's 20 now, so she hasn't long left school. But when she started opening up to her friends, they were absolutely fantastic. She had so much support. So society is improving, especially within the schools. So that's good news. Okay, question number 3. Do you feel children today have the ability to identify as they want and need? Sarah?
Certainly much more than they have. It depends on so many factors of intersecting identities, geography. If we're talking about the US, it still matters about geography, community, and family, school, etc. What safety factors they might have to take into account. But much more than ever before. And however, because of the surge in anti-trans laws, etc., I think we're sliding back a little bit on the comfort in being able to come out safely, even because I think that the rhetoric that folks hear when there's a debate about banning books from a school sends a message to those youth that their identity is inappropriate or scary and wrong, and it makes it harder for them to openly identify that way when they know that the adults in their own community, their own teachers and friends' parents are saying these things about content that is just about their existence and identity. But there are more and more resources all the time to allow children to identify how they want and need, as this question.
Thank goodness for that. Right, question for you, Lee. How do you feel literature helps our kids today learn about how they identify and how they can be brave in self-identifying?
I think this goes back to what Sarah was saying about it not being random, right? It's not just like a random search on the internet where you're not even sure if it's real or not. I think that books like Sarah's, books like mine are a little bit like we're holding space for all these other voices from history to be shared and to be heard. And I think that is hopefully a springboard to further exploration. I think that there's always a sense with history books for kids that it's like, this is all you ever need to know about X. And that's not the kind of books that either of us write. We write books that are more like, isn't this incredible? Go find out more. So I really hope it's a springboard to that. And I really feel like there's lots more about young people today in terms of they have a lot more resources in terms of identifying, but it really does come down to that. Do they have a safe space in which to be honest and authentic about who they are?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Question for you, Sarah. Do you think there is enough support for children these days who feel they identify as queer?
I mean, of course there can always be more. But I think it's the same answer as the last I gave, that it is completely dependent on what community you're in. Where I live in Western Massachusetts, there are support groups for families with trans kids in them. There, you know, I go and read my books in my kids' schools, like visit their classes, and it, the options for support are really endless, I think. But in other communities, there is not only no support, there is active discrimination. So it just completely depends. But there are, no matter where you are, there are national resources. There's the Trevor Project to call for suicidality. There are PFLAG chapters around the country, and GLSEN, the HRC. There are these national nonprofits with websites that have resources for all, and databases where you can search for LGBTQ affirming doctors, and all kinds of resources like that for just finding the closest affirming resources around you, like a healthcare provider that a youth might need.
I completely agree with you. And I was just wondering, have either of you actually had like educators, teachers reach out to you and say, can you come into my school? Can you please talk to the children? Can you share your books with them? Do you get that?
Oh yeah, that's probably about a quarter of my job is speaking engagements, and I visit classes regularly. I'm part of the LGBTQ Writers in School program through Lambda Literary, which is a partnership with the New York City public school system.
Fantastic. That must be so enlightening to go into a school, speak to a load of children, and see them leave smiling, knowing that they're not alone.
Yes.
Yeah, they're not alone. And there have been people in the community in our history that have done such amazing things, so that it must make them leave with such a sense of possibility and excitement. I think it's absolutely wonderful.
If I could just add that this week, I don't do nearly as much public speaking as Sarah does because I have a day job. But this week I took half a day off and I went and I spoke at a community college that bought 50 copies of No Way They Were Gay. They gave them out to students and to faculty. And I spoke to a group of mix of faculty and students. And that was really interesting because it felt like none of them knew most of what I was sharing. And it was like an opportunity. Like, I think of it like ripples, right? Like, okay, so there were 25, 30 people in the room, but that's going to ripple out and they're going to have interactions with other people and they're going to share, because it's not just, knowing queer history isn't just a liberation for queer people. It's kind of a liberation for everyone to realize that the history that we've been spoon-fed doesn't really include all these other groups of people, like women and people of color, like I said earlier, and disabled people and everybody else that isn't sort of getting an opportunity to be heard. So I think that's really exciting and really empowering.
Yeah, absolutely. Another question for you. How do you handle various comments from people, especially those who are against such topics? Lee?
Okay, so there's a great quote from Anne Lamott, who wrote a book called Bird by Bird, which is a pretty well-known book about the craft of writing. And in it, she talks about how lighthouses don't run all over an island looking for boats to save. They just stand there and they shine. And I think a lot about how I talk about history, how I write about history like that. like, I don't need to convince people that I'm right and they're wrong about Abraham Lincoln being in love with another guy. Like, I just want to be like, wow, I found this stuff out. I'm going to share all the evidence that I found. Interpret it as you will. But like, so I'm just going to focus on shining. I'm not going to focus on trying to convince people. I think it's a more effective way of approaching it. And it's a little less crazy making from me. But I mean, you know, like there was a list that just came out, an article 2 days ago that 100 books that were pulled out of the school district in Kentucky, and No Way They Were Gay was on the list. So on the one hand, it's terrible. On the other hand, it's sort of okay. It's nice to be included, oddly. Like, at least my book isn't being ignored. But like, I do have this sort of like, oh, it's yet another list. But I don't know. I'm very conflicted about it emotionally. Like, you want to be included, but is that really the group that you want to be included with? But hey, at least the book was in the high school library there for a bit. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Sarah, what do you think?
I do think that I do proactively work on work against these bans. I do not chase after or react to each ban. I don't do anything with those, and I do not reply to troll comments at all. But I, you know, participate in panels or media appearances or things like that about book banning, and try to, I write articles about it and cover it on the freelance writing side of my work, and share resources through those articles. And I think people can just be requesting banned books at their libraries and schools, be checking them out and buying them. They can just that as the lowest lift, you know, beyond joining your school board and library board and those kinds of things. Just doing that, sometimes these librarians and teachers are afraid to buy these books because they are afraid they'll get complaints that could lead to controversy. They don't hear proactively of, I really want these books, instead of the people who are saying, I don't want these books. So when you speak up and tell the school board that you do care about it, you think you're offended when these books are banned, instead of they are only hearing about people who are offended when these books are included. Your voice has power when you are a parent, when you are a library patron, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. Another question for you. With the undeniable presence of queer, innovating minds, from the tech found in our daily smartphones to classical music composers that have all impacted the history and future of our universe, would you say it's fair to say that beautiful, brilliant queer influence has been sharpening mankind for more or less than the beginning of time?
Yes.
Lee? Yeah,
Yes.
Sarah, you agree? Yeah.
100%.
I would just say humankind, but yes.
Yeah, exactly. Humankind. I did not write that question.
Thank you, Lee.
Just saying. No, absolutely brilliant. And what do you feel about the way forward? Sorry, what do you feel is the way forward with disbanning, for a lack of better words, toxic masculinity? Lee?
Wow, I think that it's in everything, right? It's like you're soaking in it. the idea that like guys shouldn't cry. Every time I see a movie and it's like a tough action movie, and the guy, like, if he has to take any medicine, you'll notice like he doesn't even like. He'll either drink it down with alcohol or just swallow it with no drink. Like, he has to be tough, right? Like, it's so silly, like the way, like the box that we what we think is like appropriately masculine. And that's really what the new book is about. It's this idea that the gender binary doesn't just affect the people who live outside the gender binary, it really affects all of us, because it creates these incredibly narrow boxes of how you can live your life and how you're supposed to be. And it's unnecessary. So I feel like just being authentically yourself and recognizing that, traits aren't necessarily masculine or feminine, and that there is no binary that you have to adhere to. I think that would go a long way towards sort of like breaking it down. But you got to hit those stereotypes too in fiction as well, right? Like, and in the movies we watch and in the TV shows and gosh, even the commercials, it's astonishing how it's so pervasive.
Oh, I agree. Completely agree. We've only got a few minutes left. So what I'd like to do is, Lee, can you tell us where we can find and buy your books?
Everywhere. Books are sold.
Yay! Fantastic. So you're on all major platforms. What about you, Sarah?
Same. Yeah, I think independent book shops are, a great place to support. And for buying your books, sarahprager.com has links to all the many places that you can buy each of the books. But your local bookstore is a wonderful place to support, to help them stay afloat.
Oh, and
I agree.
I'll just add that I, as a response to No Way They Were Gay being banned, Queer's a $5 Bill is a book that I crowdfunded. And so the audiobook is something that I own the rights to. So I made the audiobook a podcast. So for free, anybody can go to wherever they listen to podcasts and look up Queer's a $5 Bill, the podcast, and listen to the whole book for free. So there you go. You can get it for free.
Awesome.
That is absolutely fantastic. It's so generous, I have to say. You're absolutely amazing. Now, I've got to ask both of you. I've got a question for you. Now, Sarah, if you could go back in time and actually speak to one of the historical figures, that just one, and just have a one-on-one chat, who would you pick?
One. Oh my goodness. It's like 27 people who changed the world, 50 people and 14 people, like each of my, so many people. Christina of Sweden. I have so many questions about their gender, about that. Like, I speak about them all the time, and I am like fascinated by, I'm like, they could be, in today's terms, like asexual, bisexual, lesbian, intersex, gender fluid, cisgender, transgender, like anything is possible. And I would love to know their thoughts on their own identity so that I could present them in the way that they would. I'm so curious to know what they were actually like, just based on different people's impressions, their own writings. Like, there's no way to know, and I would love to know.
Oh my God. So you'd be seriously fangirling?
Oh, yes. I definitely would. They were very queer, but I'm so curious to know in which ways. But yes, just fangirling over how queer they were.
Fantastic. And just quickly, Lee, who would you pick?
Well, if I can't go with Sarah to her dinner party, which sounds fascinating, I would actually want to go back in time to when I was in college, because Bayard Rustin, the gentleman I spoke about, who organized the march on the 1963 march on Washington, the Civil Rights March, where Dr. King gave his "I Have a Dream" speech. He spoke at my university to the LGBTQ center, which I probably at the time was like the gay center. But I didn't even know. I was so closeted when I was in college. I didn't even know we had a gay center. And just the idea of being able to go back in and just go to the event, Lee, go to the event.
Lifelong regret.
I know, and I could have met him, and he was so amazing. And the things he said, and he was interviewed in 1986, and like, it's just so, his words are so resonant for me today. I would love to meet him. So I'd go back to 1986.
I love it. Thank you both so much for coming on and being part of the BookFest Fall Event 2023. You are both absolutely amazing, and you've been a pleasure to chat to. So thank you so much, everybody. We do have Oh, you are so welcome. We do have
Thank you
Alan
so
Henry.
much.
We have
Thank you.
Alan
Bye.
Henry coming up next, which is absolutely awesome. And just quickly before he comes on, remember to go onto the BookFest website. You can still join as a BookFester. There's lots coming up. But now we have Alan Henry, who does special projects editor at Wired, former editor at the New York Times / Life Hacker, and author of Seen, Heard, and Paid. And he delves into the workplace marginalization and offers career boosting tips. Hello, Alan.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be here. How are you?
We're great, and thank you so much for joining us, my darling. We've been so excited to meet you, haven't we, CJ? Yay!
Yes, super stoked.
It's absolutely awesome. Now, Alan,
Yeah.
I mean, wow, you've done a lot. You've worn some hats, I've got to tell you.
That's true.
So special projects editor at Wired.
Yep.
What did that involve? My goodness.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's three things really. When I got hired at Wired, I was the service editor, which meant I was in charge of service journalism, how to make your phone run faster, how to make your battery last longer, stuff like that. And now special projects is really editorial packages that have to do with like similar themes, for example. So like one package I'm working on right now has to do with women in science. And we want to highlight a number of women who are making exceptional research advancements in science. And, you know, those are the kinds of things that I love working on, where I get to teach people about, you know, something useful for them, but also really kind of expose somebody who normally doesn't get a lot of limelight to more people.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now I've got to ask you, I mean, you were special projects editor at Wired, and then editor at New York Times and Life Hacker. What made you all of a sudden decide to become an author? Or was it something that you always wanted to secretly do, and then all of a sudden decide to do?
You know, it's funny. I was not the kind of person who thought I was ever going to write a book. I didn't. I was like, lots of people write books. I love reading books. I don't need to write one myself, right? So, but what wound up happening was I was editor-in-chief of Life Hacker, and I was at Life Hacker for about 5 years before I moved to the New York Times, and I was a Smarter Living editor there. And I realized that I spent a lot of time at Life Hacker writing productivity tips and tricks that I wanted everybody to be able to use, right? And a great example of this is blocking off your day for deep work, right? So if you get people who love to jump on your calendar, or they schedule you for a meeting in the afternoon that same morning, you can get around that by blocking off sections of your calendar. And you don't have to give it a label because it's just your calendar. You just say deep work. I do that all the time. But when I got to the New York Times, I realized that some of these things that I've been writing about my entire career were working really well for some people, but not for me. So, for example, that time blocking thing, right? I've written about that at Life Hacker. I've told people this is a tip anyone could use to organize their day. And I got to the Times and I realized there was an editor who did that already. He called it his No Meeting Tuesdays. And I was like, that's great. And people respected that. And I said, okay, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do No Meeting Thursdays. Well, boy, did that not last. People just booked over me. They would Slack me and say, what do you mean you're not free? It was really important. I need you here. And I realized there's something different between me and the people that were really thriving with these tips. So I wrote this article for the Times called What to Do If You Feel Like You're Being Discriminated Against at Work. And that article blew up in a way that I didn't expect. And I guess maybe I should have predicted it. But in 24 hours after that, I had an email from a book agent saying, do you want to turn this into a book? That email went to spam, so I never saw it. Then 48 hours later, I got an email from who would eventually be my book editor at Penguin Random House saying, this article's great. Do you want to turn it into a book? That email did not go to spam. So that's how Seen, Heard, and Paid got started. They both got together. The agent and the editor knew each other already. And they were like, no, we need to make this book. And they got together and they sat me down over a very overdressed Caesar salad at a place here in New York that I can't remember because I can't afford to go there on a regular basis, and said, this is necessary. And I said, okay, let's do it. And that's how it got started.
That's absolutely amazing. Now, did it blow your mind, the fact that you realized that you were being marginalized?
Yes.
You know, especially in today's society, I mean, you wouldn't think that that would be such a common thing now, but obviously it clearly is.
Yeah. In fact, you know, one thing that I've learned over the course of writing this book was the fact that marginalization is for everyone, right? And it's not like it used to be where you would walk into an office and you knew all the women were secretaries, all the women were office managers, right? Nowadays, it's more insidious than that, where you get quiet marginalization, where somebody, for example, you know, they don't consider their disabled colleague because they always love to go to this rooftop bar, but it's 5 flights up and their disabled colleague can't go, and they just don't. And no one ever thinks, wow, this person's not part of the team like they should be because of a thing that I'm doing. Right?
Yeah.
Men don't realize that they talk over women in meetings. They don't realize, and this is something I talk about in my book, this concept of office housework that generally always falls to women, and especially women of color in groups, where you notice everybody has an office mom, right? You've always heard of the office mom. She knows where all the supplies are. She knows the best places to go to lunch, all that great stuff. Have you ever had an office dad or an office uncle? Or an office brother? Exactly, right?
There's had an office creep a couple of times.
Oh, sure. But yeah, but there's never there. But those are roles that men in the workplace generally don't pick up because they feel, oh, that's beneath me for some reason. And oftentimes women and people of color do pick up those roles because they want to be involved. They want to be a part of the team. And it just doesn't play out fairly in terms of your career.
Yeah, agreed. Now, we do have a question from one of our viewers.
Sure.
How can you identify that you are being marginalized?
Trust your gut, for one. If you realize that, I mean, there's the obvious things like you don't get the promotions that you think you should get. Your annual review isn't as great as it should be. But look for the smaller things, like so-and-so's working on this project. Oh, but I didn't learn about that. I don't know about that. No one invited me to those meetings. No one included me. If you are the person who does get asked to take all the meeting notes or schedule the next meeting or get lunch for the meeting or something like that, you're being marginalized. I tell people the easy way to tell is if you're doing work that doesn't vibe with your career goals, but does seem to keep the team together, you're doing office housework. You're doing the work that somebody is letting be handed down to you. And you need to advocate for yourself if you have the psychological safety to do so.
And just quickly before we go, if somebody does realize that they're being marginalized, what would you say is the best tip to get out of that situation?
Buy my book. But no, not really.
I was just going to say, apart from buy your book.
Buy my book. Because there's
you
more.
Should do that.
Yeah, there's more in it than I can tell you right now. But the one thing I do tell everyone to do is to keep a work diary. And there's a good reason for this. One, you jot down all the good stuff and the bad stuff that happens at work. It's very cathartic. But also what you're doing is keeping track of the times where you get opportunities to advance your career and you don't. You get the challenges. You can, like, somebody in an interview asks you, tell me about a challenge and how you overcame it. Great. You have that written down already. You don't have to come up with something, right? But also you're tracking the times when your coworkers are pushing you aside, when you're not getting opportunities, and you're building the case for yourself to move to something better. So that's a start. But definitely trust your gut.
That's fantastic. And where can we buy your book, Alan?
Yeah, anywhere books are sold is the traditional publisher endorsed answer. But I'm a big fan of independent bookstores, bookshop.org, and you can find me at alan-henry.org or .net. Sorry, alan-henry.net. And there's tons of links there, including to my newsletter that I need to write at some point very soon.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us, Alan. You are absolutely amazing.
Thank you for having me.
I'm super excited to read your book. I really am. I'm going to share it with my daughter as well because she's just joined the workplace. So
my kids too.
To be armed.
Yep.
I'm glad. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
But
bye, Alan.
Darling.
Thank you.
See
Take care.
Soon.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.
Absolutely interesting.
When he said have the psychological safety to do so, that blew my mind. I was like, psychological, because a lot of people don't think about that part of it. They don't think that, yes, stand up for yourself, but make sure that you're ready psychologically to do that, because there's so much more to it than
Yeah.
just using your voice. So I'm so excited about that. I've got to go grab the book. Who do we have next, Beth?
We have Mark Leslie, who is a paranormal author. I'm so excited.
Not creepy season, scary season.
I know, right? I
Scary
should have been wearing my Halloween outfit.
Yeah.
It's a long story, everybody's a long story. You don't want to know. He's author of The Haunted Hospitals, Creepy Capital, and Tomes of Terror. And he's going to share a true story from his years of researching eerie tales. Oh my God, you look amazing, Mark.
He's ready. He's ready for this.
How are you? Can you hear me, Mark? He looks like he's nodding, but not hearing.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
there might be a ghost in the machine.
Oh,
yeah.
He brought his.
There might be a ghost in the machine because for some reason everything was working. Yeah, it was weird. Everything was working fine, and then suddenly it's glitching. I think there are spirits out there that do not want me to share the.
I'm expecting music. I'm expecting the do 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 do
I know,
do
right?
music. It's getting that creepy vibe. Oh well, thank you so much for joining us, Mark. We are absolutely thrilled to have you. Now I have to say, I have to ask you a question. Have you always been interested in the paranormal from a young age? That blows my mind because I love stuff like that.
Always,
and I'll watch.
I've always been terrified.
Terrified or just fascinated?
No, I'm scared of the dark. And I'm sorry. Again, the ghost in the machine is preventing me from communicating properly with you here. It's just messing up my computer. But no, I've always been scared of the dark, and so I've always wanted to write about things that scare me, things that frighten me, and that's been since I was a kid. I've always been fascinated with that stuff.
That's just absolutely amazing. Now, come on, I'm desperate to know about this true story. So did it happen to you? Tell us more.
No, I wanted to share a story. Well, it kind of happened to me. I was on a late night radio program with George Norrie, Coast to Coast AM, and it was a call-in of somebody who had shared. Now, I had just released the book Tomes of Terror, Haunted Bookstores and Libraries, and I had a call-in, and I was researching for the book Haunted Hospitals, which is already out now. And this was a story from somebody who had worked at the Ponoka Institute in Ponoka, Alberta. And it was established, I think, in, I have to look up the date, 1911. And it was Alberta's foremost mental health care institute. And this was something where he had shared a story about some things that had happened to him with a particular woman that was in the institute. This was a woman whose room was always ice cold. People were the staff were basically, trading off who had to go and connect with her and take care of her room and stuff like that, because they go into it and it'd be like a meat locker. And one of the evenings that he walked in was, it was an overnight shift, and he walked in the room and he heard her voices just before he walked into the room, and he's like, oh, okay, she's talking in her sleep again, or they thought she might have been possessed or whatever. Walks into the room, looks and sees the woman sleep standing. And if that's not terrifying enough, she's sleep standing completely horizontal with her feet on the wall about 4 feet up over her bed, out into the room. Her hair is hanging down over her face. She is not moving at all. He freaks out, stands there, is not sure what to do, takes a couple steps back, closes the door, goes into the TV room, sits down, says nothing to anyone until almost 30 years later on this radio program. And I was so fascinated with the story. He shared a couple other stories about things that had happened with this woman, but another time he'd walked in and she would just be completely complaining of the cold, they'd move her to another room. The other room would get ice cold. The minute she moved out, they went back to normal temperature. So he had shared this story. I contacted, I was talking to the producer of the radio program, and I got a hold, and I said, would he be willing to talk to me? Because I'm researching haunted hospitals. So he shared the story. It was about 2 weeks after this radio program. And interestingly enough, one of his colleagues, who also never said anything 30 years earlier, contacted him and said, I recognized your voice. I knew exactly who you were talking about, because they didn't reveal the name of the patient. And that colleague said, interestingly, around the same time, not the same week or whatever, it was around the same month, that other colleague had gone in to her room, walked in, her having heard voices, and saw her sleep standing in a similar way, except she was standing vertically this time, but she was about 1.5 feet off the floor and facing away from him, facing the window. And so it was so fascinating that I got this live story. Then I spoke to the person who worked there. And then by the time I spoke to the person, there had been another story from someone who was too scared to say anything because they didn't think anyone would believe them. And then finally said, yes, I believe you. And so I get stories like that all the time when I'm doing book signings, or I do this time of year, of course, my favorite time of year. Halloween is the best month of the year. I'm usually asked to do a lot of creepy and scary stories.
That's just absolutely mind blowing. I honestly don't know what I would do if I walked into my husband's bedroom and saw him like horizontal. I'd be like, oh, I've got goosebumps just thinking about it.
You get the whole bed to yourself. That'd be great. You're like, okay, you
That's
just
true.
float over there. Yeah.
I'll just glide him slowly.
I'm leaving.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm divorcing.
Oh my
I'm
God.
telling the whole world I'm going on national television. I'm done. I'm over it. I'm in the insane asylum after that. Like, no,
That's
you don't keep
crazy.
a secret for 30 years. Something like that.
No,
I'll
it's
go back on
crazy that
mute.
it's crazy that so many people had the same experience but didn't communicate to each other because they're obviously, didn't want to look like an idiot. I'm sure you visit lots of different scary places, especially when you're researching for your books. What's the scariest place you've ever been in that's made you like, oh, your blood run cold?
It must have been in Weston, West Virginia. It was the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum for the Insane, Lunatic Asylum. We went on a tour there, my partner and I, and it was in broad daylight, but it was just a terrifying. But you just feel the angst and anxiety oozing through the walls.
God, do you think that people genuinely leave imprints, of their pain, their suffering, what they've been through? And because I've been in places, and I don't know whether I'm a little bit sensitive, but I've been into places where it just feels so oppressive. It's like, just, it feels like the air's thick. Do you get those vibes when you're researching?
You're so right about places and locales it's just so critical when you think about trauma. Positive things, negative things, any high energy can leave an impression on a place, and you can pick up, especially sensitive people.
That podcast is at it again, CJ.
Up those impressions. And hospitals, of course, are rife because it's
that darn ghost.
It's the lady. It's the lady.
Yes, I'm getting goosebumps again. I don't know whether you can hear me, Mark, but thank you so much for coming on. There will be links for Mark's works posted in the chat, so please do check out his books, and it's absolutely amazing. I don't know about you, but I could literally talk to Mark for hours.
Yes, and remind me, I've got to tell you a story when I had to have my mother-in-law come over and bless my house with holy water. That scared the bejesus out of me.
Oh my gosh.
That's for another day. Mark's story got me over here. I'm sleeping with the lights on tonight. But let's talk about something a little less scary with our next guest. Who do we got coming up?
We have the wonderful Kaylee. And do you know what? I've completely forgotten how to pronounce that last name. Boisvert? No, she did tell me, and I can't remember.
French.
I know it's French. I don't speak French. I'm learning Spanish.
Kaylee's going to help us with it, though.
Yes, I hope so. But she's written The Money Guru and the author of Make Money Your Thing, or Make Money Your Thing. I could do with some of that. And kids' picture book, Money Wise, Maribel's Bursting Bank. And she's going to share some top tips for making money less scary. Hello, Kaylee.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
I just embarrassed myself because I couldn't remember how to pronounce your name.
That's okay. It's really difficult, like I've said. So it's Kaylee Boisvert.
See, I got it completely wrong. I'm so sorry.
It's fine. It's a really tough one. Happens all the time.
Now, tell me, Kaylee, what made you decide to try and help and educate others, adults and children, about how to handle money and make it less scary?
Yeah. So I think for me, just starting out on my journey, I grew up with a single mom. She worked really hard, but we didn't have a lot of money growing up. So I learned really fast the power of saving up my own money to buy the things I wanted. Because my mom, and at one point, instead of saying like, no, you can't have it, we can't afford that, she said to me, well, why don't you save up and buy it yourself? And I was like, wow, I could do that. And so I've been doing that probably ever since the age of like 8 or so, and learning everything I could. And so it was about time I did something to share it, I thought. So that's why I wrote the book, Make Money Your Thing. It's about giving women a bit of a confidence boost when it comes to money and finances and investing and all those fun topics. And then Money Wise, Mabel's Bursting Bank is about a little girl learning about money, and it's a kid's picture book because I don't think we get enough of these opportunities to learn about money when we're in school and things like that. So it's a fun way for parents to talk to their kids about money.
That's absolutely amazing. I think it's fantastic because, dealing with money is such a tricky thing. I've got 4 children, and one of the things as a parent, you have to teach your children how to try and manage their money. Some kids listen to you, some kids don't. Just saying. But it is an education, and it's really tough, especially with, the economy changing constantly. It's a very fluid thing. What do you think is the most important thing that you've learned? I'm sure you've had to research a lot for your book to make sure you get everything correct. What's really blown your mind when you've been researching this?
Yeah, well, I'll share a few tips if we have time. So I'll go through like 3 ideally if we can get through them. So the first one was money mindset. So I think we could all use a little bit of work on our money mindset. And it's how I start the book because I think it's the foundation of our relationship with money. And when I talk about money mindset, a lot of it has to do with like money beliefs that we hold. And when we look at our money beliefs, what we find is a lot of them we picked up along the way that we heard from like parents and things like that from when we were young. So when I ask people about like money beliefs, they say things like, rich people are greedy or money is the root of all evil, like these very blanket statements where you look at them and go, well, that's not really true. Like there's of course other scenarios, and that's maybe like some people are greedy, but it doesn't mean if you have a lot of money you're greedy. So I give an activity in the book, which I think is really valuable and happy to share it here, to work on your money beliefs and your money mindset, which is write down all the beliefs you have about money. Whether maybe you think of them as like really good or helpful or, bad, negative. And a lot of them I think are kind of negative based. Write them all down and then take a moment and look at each one and decide, is this true? Like, could I, do a debate on this and defend its accuracy, that sort of truth? And what you're going to find is most of those beliefs you have probably aren't true. And so the fun part is actually getting to rewrite those beliefs and decide what it is that you want to believe about money going forward. So instead of seeing money as, again, like from my childhood, it was like money is really like a scarce resource. We never have enough. So what do I want to believe? Well, I want to believe that money is abundant and I have the ability to earn wealth and increase my earnings. So those are just some examples, but that's the money mindset piece, which I think think is key and important for everyone. And that's an activity that anyone can try right now. Another key point that I found and shared in my book is about having a money awareness. So knowing your numbers, or, the dreaded B word, the scary B word, budget, which, those aren't so bad. So I talk about in the book money awareness and how powerful it is. Thinking as like budgets can feel really restrictive, and oftentimes people don't want to do them for that reason, like thinking, well, I still want to have my, Starbucks or whatever it is. And that's not the case though. Like money awareness and just tracking and looking at what you're spending, it's going to be really helpful for you to help like understand, what am I spending? Where is my money going? And is that where I want to be spending my money? So it's a really good awareness exercise. Don't think of it as a chance to like beat yourself up and go, wow, I spent way more money than I should have, or I'm terrible with money, or things like that, right? We don't want that negativity coming in. Look at it as if it's, something that's teaching you about your spending habits. And once you know that information, you can actually make changes of your choosing. So you can say, wow, I didn't realize I was spending that much eating out. That was a big one for me. Like skip the dishes, things like that. I was seeing those Visa entries far too often. So it's just being mindful and saying, okay, I'm going to make sure I spend some more time meal prepping and actually, cooking or eating from home rather than always eating out. Because for me, I value things like travel and adventure, and that's where I want my resources to be going.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by knowing your numbers, because when you know them, then you can make changes and decide where it's going. And then the last really important tip, I think, for people when it comes to money is investing. So investing is that big, scary word where a lot of people feel like, I don't know enough. I've heard someone lose a whole bunch of money investing in the stock markets or things like that, and it can be very scary. But investing is one of the best ways to grow wealth. So I share in my book how we can make investing a little less scary. And one of those activities that people can try is just doing some practice with like fake money. So deciding if you're scared of investing, well, what if you pretend you were to invest in a specific stock, for instance? So pick a company maybe you like and say, okay, I'm going to pretend I bought 10 shares of this company. And then you can actually track how it does and sort of see how you're feeling and what that looks like. So that's a fun practice way to invest that's not as scary. But again, like when people want to know, well, what are the wealthy people doing? How do we build wealth? Investing is a big piece of it, because what is investing? It's making your money work for you. So we work really hard and put a lot of time into earning money, but how much time or how are we utilizing our money to give back and to make sure it's working for us too? And so that's what investing is. So these are some of the points I share in the book. And then at the end of each chapter, I also give action steps, and they're very simple. Like no one likes homework, I know, and we have busy lives. So the last thing you want is like money homework from the money book. So I do make them very small, like something you can do really quick with, even on your phone, like the notes section, or grab a journal or something like that. But the action part is key, because when it comes down to it, like, how are you going to make change? How are you going to have positive impact? You have to take action. And so I give you very specific ideas in the book to do that. So hopefully that makes money less scary. That's my Halloween take on money.
That's absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
Excuse me, tickly throat. I tell you, it just goes to show that knowledge can create money power. And I think you're right. I think too many people have a complete fear of money. And it's interesting, because I never really thought about it on a psychological level until I got introduced to you. And I'm like, she's right. And also, I mean, nowadays, obviously there are more women who are single because they won't stay in, unhappy marriages, et cetera, Women don't feel like they have to get married and stuff. So now, obviously, at this day and age, more women have more say in what they do with their money, how they earn their money. Mm-hmm. And obviously all that knowledge that you're giving, they can pass on down to the younger generation. It's fantastic. Kaylee, you are absolutely awesome. Where can everybody buy your book?
Probably easiest place is on Amazon. So again, the book's called Make Money Your Thing, and then Money Wise Mabel.
Fantastic. Kaylee, thank you so much for joining us. You are absolutely awesome. Please go and check out Kaylee's books, because obviously, you know, everybody likes to have a bit more money.
Yes. Yeah,
That'd be rather
absolutely.
nice.
We can all use
Thank
that.
you so
Absolutely.
much.
Thank you.
Bye, Kaylee.
Thank you, darling, and we'll see
Bye,
you
everyone.
soon. Wow, that's blown my mind. I tell you what, I love
Yes.
BookFest. We learned so
Right?
much.
Yes, and remind everybody about the giveaways. Go and make sure that you've signed up.
Oh my
Also, make
gosh.
sure that you have signed up, because the virtual gift bag at the end is chocked full of the most amazing goodies ever. So if you haven't signed up, there's still time. www.thebookfest.com. Sign up, enter the giveaways, all that good stuff. So
Yes. And
who do we
there's books for adults and children. So
yes.
jump in.
Amen.
Fantastic.
Who do we have next, Beth?
Next, we have Anne Charles, USA Today bestselling author of humorous mysteries and supernatural stories. She's going to be sharing several antidotes of how life imitates art, or
I love
rather her art imitates her. Hello, my darling. How are you, Anne?
I'm good. I'm a little sunburned. We've been fixing our gutters or getting ready for all this. It's just the glamorous life of, house ownership. I just love it.
Now, I've got to apologise to you, Anne, because I did say I was going to dress up as a female pirate today.
I know. I'm wearing the hat because you were supposed to be dressed up as a pirate. And I came out on Sunday and I thought, well, now I feel silly and overdressed for the Halloween.
No,
vacation.
you look absolutely fabulous. I had a wardrobe malfunction. It was not going to work.
Okay.
There would have been complaints. So tell us more about, life imitating art, and you just blow my mind, young lady.
So I write comedy. Humor is always intertwined with paranormal, supernatural, whatever you want to call it, as well as mystery, dead bodies. And it's really a thing to try to juggle, dead bodies and humor. But, it can be funny if you're focusing on, I guess, not the dead body. But I tried long ago just to write romance, because I grew up, one of the things I loved was romance. And I sucked so bad. My early critique group made me promise never to use a hero's name ever again, or they'd never read my stuff. So, I mean, when you have a hero that your critique group hates that much, you just know maybe romance only is not for me. Maybe I need to find something else. So let's start killing people. But, that's not, I don't really kill people in real life.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, that just doesn't go. But it does add a lot of fun. If you're writing some humor, you can have some dark humor, and it's add the supernatural in. You've got creepy things, creatures, monsters, beings, and it just makes even more fun for me. But I learned long ago not to with humor. I mean, there's different kinds you can write, but I learned not to make fun of others, to make fun of the character themselves. They laugh at themselves, and that's some of the best humor out there. So, and that's me. I mean, this morning I was talking to my husband as I was getting ready to paint some boards that were going up, fascia boards, and I took a drink of my coffee, and it had the lid and the little hole where your mouth goes. It was off to the side, and I knew my mouth knew it, and I tipped it as he was sitting there watching me, talking to me, and he just died laughing as coffee just pours down me. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, I don't know. I thought it was near my mouth, but I guess it wasn't. And then a little later, I was taking a drink of water, and it just went down the sides. And he's like, "Please don't drive the vehicles today. Please be careful. Whatever you're doing, walking up steps, please try to be careful." Because I put the paint down and I put the roller in it and I sloshed it way over right into the driveway. And I was like, oh, crap. So take that kind of a thing. And instead of getting upset with all this, you just find the humor in it and you laugh at yourself. And that's the same on the page. let me hit this. You just laugh at yourself, and that way, see, I'm knocking my mic down. I'm just a mess today. Anyway, so putting that on the page, we all trip over our own feet sometimes, right? So if you can find ways to incorporate the humor into the story with the dead bodies, a lot of times it makes it just a more of a fun read for all.
I do you know what? I completely agree with you. And thing is, if it's relatable humor, then people find it even funnier, especially when oh yeah, I do something like that, and yeah, I did that.
Yes.
And people can relate to it, can't they? It's absolutely amazing. Now I've got to ask, what has inspired you? Was there something that happened when you were young that just made you love the dark, humorous side of life?
Well, I tell my parents, who divorced when I was 3, that you guys really messed me up. So it's really kind of their fault, that the big divorce fanfare, as a little kid and going through that. And I learned at that point really to try to find the humor in life in spite of something that was kind of tragic, going on. Find the good. I get 2 Christmases now, plus 2 more if you count the different grandparents, right? So you kind of spread it out and try to find the good mixed in with the bad. And so I think, just from an early age, it was find the good stuff, find something to be optimistic about. So you tripped coming up the stairs. I didn't break my arm today, and you just try to laugh through it, and then just putting that on the page, because like you said, we all do stuff that we do silly things and we're like, oh Lord. So if your character does it and laughs at themselves so many times, the readers can relate to that character. And I get that time and again that, Violet Parker from the Deadwood Mystery series would be my best friend. She's just like me, so things like that, or, just make life something to laugh about.
I couldn't agree with you more. CJ and I have got both very similar personalities, and we love a good giggle, I've got to tell you. But where did your love for the supernatural come from? I hope that was from your parents as well.
No, that's my brother. I used to have to do chores on the farm, and at 6 years old, go out in the winter at night to the barn and feed the cows. And it was only 7 at night, but it was dark, in the winter. And we'd take turns each week, and he'd do the week before me, and then he'd say, watch out, there's a new family of vampires that moved in behind the barn, so be careful when you go out at night. And I would be terrified, but I'd go, I had to do it. I mean, you had to take your turn, right? Or you'd get razzed by your siblings. And so, and he actually does a lot of the artwork for the covers and illustrations in my books, because he still draws monsters. He's just amazing artist. And he was pulling from his imagination to scare the crap out of me when I had to go do stuff. He's my older brother, you can tell, right? I mean, I was the poor little younger sister.
I could just picture you right now going to the cow shed with a stake.
Oh my gosh. We had 4 dogs, and I'd call all the dogs, and then we'd walk out together, and I'd send them in the dark barn, and I'd be like waiting for a yip. I was so mean to sacrifice the dogs.
Oh my gosh, I think it's absolutely brilliant. And tell us where we can find your amazing books.
So if you go to my website, AnnCharles.com, just AN and Charles.com, and go to the books, I have all kinds of links to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Apple, you name it. We have audiobooks of everything, print books, and ebooks. So whatever your heart desires, we've got it there on that books page on AnnCharles.com.
Fantastic. And I've got to ask you, what is your favorite supernatural creature, and which one would you like to meet?
Oh my gosh. Zombies scare the crap out of me. Cows scare me. Zombie cows, I just stand there probably wetting my pants and turn into a thing of goo, because here come the cows for me. So, I don't know. That's a weird zombie. That's another story with the cows, but zombie cows, that's it.
Oh my gosh.
Never heard of zombie cows.
I was just
I could first.
They would be so evil. Oh, they'd be so scary. And they're big. Ooh, step on my toe, I'm done.
Oh my gosh, Anne, you are a hoot. Thank you so much for joining us today. You are absolutely amazing. Your links will be in the comments. So thank you, darling. And we hope to
Thanks.
see you next year on the BookFest fall events.
That would
Thank
be
you, my
awesome.
darling.
All right, thanks.
Bye, Anne. Thank you so much. Oh my
God.
goodness, that was so
Zombie
much
cows.
fun.
Could you imagine?
I've never even heard of zombie cows, but now I'm never looking at a cow the same.
No,
Never.
my
It's
dog's
just not
freak.
going to happen.
My dogs freak me out when they turn around and the light shines on their eyes, and all of a sudden their eyes look like they're glowing.
Yeah, I tell Elvis all the time. I said, "You've got the evil look in your eye. Quit it." Well, I know this next one's going to get us. Let's
Oh
get the
my
spooky
God.
out of here. Let's get a little different fun. Who do we have up next?
We have Gwen Overland, award-winning author of Hot in Hawaii, the series. I love that. And she will be demonstrating how to make a Mai Tai. And I'm all excited because I don't know how to make one. Hello, Gwen. How are you?
I'm great. And, I didn't know how to make one either until I did this practice. And what I learned is if you're going to practice a demonstration with alcohol, you shouldn't. Because after the second time through, I didn't even know my name.
That's okay.
Up on my website.
That's okay. We'll just all forget our names, but we'll have a good time.
That's
exactly.
Great. Well, I'm celebrating today my Hot in Hawaii series, especially my previous BookFest awards with Book 1, Kona Cowboy Surfer, Book 2, Oahu Cowboy Seal, and my current submission, Kauai Cowboy Senator. And he's there watching us as we go. And what I was aware of as I was working on this book, this series, and the fourth book, which I just finished, is I use a literary device, and I use it quite often. And that literary device is the Mai Tai. All right. So before I continue, since I'm a little nervous, I need a little sip of limoncello here.
Oh, she's making us jealous. All I've got is orange tea.
Oh, limoncello. Limoncello is not Hawaiian, it's Italian. And it has nothing to do with my writing, but it seems like a good idea right now.
I love a bit of limoncello, I've got to be honest with you. It's my go-to.
So you need a shaker, if you don't have a shaker with a lid, and you need to put ice in it. And then you need to put in the alcohol. So you start with white rum. You need 1 shot. This is a shot thingy, a jigger. I got a little half on the bottom, and it's just great. So, or a tablespoon, whatever you got. And I pour that in, and then I follow it with some orgeat syrup, which is I got the super family size here. It is an almond syrup, and you pour that in. It's a shot and a half. And then you add an orange liqueur. I prefer Cointreau, which is French, which again has nothing to do with me or this series, but it seems like a good idea. So a shot and a half of that, or 2 or 3 or something. And then finally, 1 more shot of lime juice, either fresh lime or in this little jug. And I thought, since I was practicing, I should just get a giant jug of everything, and that was not good. So then you have to have a base. Just a minute. One more little moment here. You have to have
making me jealous.
Excuse me. You have to have a base, and that base can either be orange juice or pineapple juice. And I prefer pineapple because why not? I wrote the series in Hawaii, so that just makes sense. So then you put the top on the shaker, and you're going to have to shake it for 30 seconds. So while I do that, I am going to tell you a little bit about the background of the Mai Tai.
Oh, yes, do.
Yes, do. I know you can't wait. Vernon J. Bergeron, who owned Trader Vic's in Oakland, California, invented this drink, he says, in 1944. Then this guy named Don Beach, who owned Don's Beachcomber Grill in Hollywood, California, says, I invented a cocktail just like that in the 1930s. And, if you're inventing cocktails, you just have to know that somebody's going to quibble with you, or there's going to be conspiracy theories or something. So just don't invent a cocktail or invent it in secret or do something. My arm is tired, so I'm going to stop right there. And I get another little sip of limoncello.
You were getting the party started early.
Oh no, she's making my mouth
Always.
water. I keep thinking limoncello.
Yeah, limoncello. So then you take the try to say that 15 times. Then you put on your little strainer. You set that on there like so, and then you get a chilled glass, not with ice in it, but that's been chilled in ice. And then you pour it in. Now this will be interesting because I don't want to pour it in. Ooh, oh, I'm doing really well. Yeah, sure. Okay. And while I'm pouring that in, that looks really good. I want to tell you that Bergeron did try his cocktail out with some Tahitian customers. And they took one sip and said, Mai Tai Roa Ae, which means that's probably the best damn cocktail I've ever had. And so that's why the name Mai Tai stuck. Okay. Now there it is. It's beautiful, so cool. But it absolutely needs garnish. I mean, that's the whole thing about a Mai Tai, is you have to put clothes on it. So you can use lemon slices, lime slices, orange wedge, pineapple. You can use a maraschino cherry and this festive little umbrella. I've never done that before. Oh, that doesn't really add a whole lot, but there it is.
It makes me want to go to Hawaii.
Oh, it does.
I'll go back.
I'm ready. The traditional recipe calls for a splash of dark rum or a splash of grenadine, and I don't have any of that. I ran out of money after buying all this alcohol. So I'm just going to today use the last little bit of my limoncello because it will work.
I love it.
There you go. That's how you make a Mai Tai, the national drink of Hawaii.
I love it. Oh my gosh. That is absolutely amazing. And I've got to tell you, I absolutely love the Hawaiian Islands.
I do too. And you know, in all seriousness, as I wrote the fourth book, which was Maui Cowboy Surgeon, that's when they had the big fire. And so that kind of made my heart sink. But then my team and with the help of Amazon, we worked out a situation in which some of the proceeds from my Hawaiian series books can go toward the Maui Foundation so that the island can be rejuvenated, buildings, you know, infrastructure, the whole thing. And some of the money can also go to help people find themselves, to deal with their loss of property and friends and family and their emotional needs as well as their physical and psychological needs. So that's the good part. Yeah.
You are absolutely amazing, Gwen. You really, really are. Now I've got to ask you, Gwen.
Yes.
Have you ever had a reader reach out to you and say, because I read your books, I've gone and visited this place and this place and this place in Hawaii?
Well, in Hawaii, yes. I actually, people are, I live on the West Coast in Oregon. So going to Hawaii is, you know, a frequent thing, a familiar thing for people to get away from the cold or the forest fires or whatever else is going on. But they always ask me, do you know of a good book I could read while I'm on the beach? I go, well, now that you've asked, I can think of 3 or 4 myself. So they take them with them, and then it goes down the beach and, you know, everything else. So in that regard, yes, I have been able to share. Yeah.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing. And I can't believe you've written so many. So where can we find all your books?
Well, Maui Cowboy Surgeon was my 22nd book, and my books can be found, can be found on Amazon or on my website, gwenoverland.com.
Absolutely fantastic. I tell you, thank you so much for joining us, Gwen. Now, if somebody wants to, you know, start reading your books, if they haven't already, which one should they start with?
Well, if they like the Hot and Wise series, and that's closest to my heart because I just finished it, I'd start with the first one, Kona Cowboy Surfer.
Yeah,
while drinking a Mai Tai.
Or a limoncello.
With friends on Hawaii, wherever.
I'm going to do it, and I'm going to drink my Mai Tai in bed and read the book.
Thank you
There we
so
go.
much.
Thank you
Yes.
so much,
so
Gwen.
much.
It was
Okay.
amazing.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye,
Thank you for
Gwen.
joining us,
Bye.
darling. Bye.
I could
My
taste it on the
mouth,
tip of my tongue. I
my
could taste
mouth
them.
is still watering.
Oh my goodness.
And
Now,
all
if
I've
your
got,
mouth, I know I've got water, but if your mouth was watering from the Mai Tai, your mouth is going to water even more.
do, do, do.
Yes.
We
Yes.
have Alexandra Trineka, assistant professor and writer, introduces her character Bunky, and she's going to discuss her historical book, explores Halloween from 1872, and shares an 1887 pumpkin pie recipe.
Yes.
Pumpkin pies! Hello, my darling. How are
Hello.
you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very well. Thank you so much. Hello. And here are my bunkies. And bunkies, they are my literary
Yay.
characters, and they join me.
They're so cute.
Thank you. They're going to help you with the recipe.
I absolutely love it. Now, tell me, is this a family recipe or is this a recipe that you've invented?
Oh, thank
Where's
you
it
so
come
much.
from?
It's a professional academic recipe. I found it as a part of a research in a 19th century journal. So it comes from the magazine titled Lady's New Book of Cookery, edited by Mrs. Hale, who was very popular back then. She also edited Goodies, Lady's Book. So she was a very powerful and important female figure in the 19th century. And this is her pumpkin pie recipe. Actually, I found one from 1852 as well, because I think it will be better and maybe clearer to present this one.
This is absolutely amazing. I've got to say, it fascinates me how certain things can last through generations and generations and generations. And recipes and cooking techniques is one of those things. I'm super excited. Oh,
thank you. So
hey,
we can share the recipe with Bunky. He's ready. He has a little cooking pot and pumpkin pie and pumpkin as well. And yeah, and also I have ingredients for our audience. They can just take a look at this and I will just enumerate them. So you need 1 pumpkin, a quart of milk, and 3 eggs. And this is the family kind of recipe for the whole 3 eggs for the whole family. And then you can use sugar or molasses, and then 2 teaspoonsful of salt and 2 tablespoonsful of sifted cinnamon. And then you have 1 spoonful of powdered ginger and lemon peel. And that's it. So these are the ingredients. And of course, you need a big pumpkin. This is from my garden.
I love it. You've grown that yourself?
Yes.
That's fantastic.
And thank you so much. So yeah, and here is the recipe I will be quoting from 1852 edition of Lady's New Book of Cookery by Mrs. Hale. So dear audience, dear reader, dear viewers, take out the seeds from the pumpkin and pare the pumpkin or squash it, and then stew the pumpkin and strain it through a sieve or colander. Then, to a quart of milk for a big family pie, add 3 eggs, and the recipe states it will be sufficient. Then stir in the stewed pumpkin with your milk and eggs till it is as thick as you can stir round rapidly and easily. If the pie is wanted richer, make it thinner and add sweet cream or another egg or 2. But I quote, even 1 egg to a quart of milk makes very decent pies. Sweeten with molasses or sugar, add 2 teaspoonsful of salt, 2 tablespoonsful of sifted cinnamon, 1 of powdered ginger, but if you prefer, you may use allspice as well, or any other spice may be used, and the peel of a lemon grated in gives a very pleasant flavor. Now the recipe states the more eggs, the better the pie. Bake about an hour in deep plates or shallow dishes without an upper crust in a hot oven, and then it's ready. So this is not ready yet, but again, I would like to show you the ingredients if you have, maybe someone would like to take a note.
Fantastic.
And
Screenshot it,
so,
everyone. Screenshot.
yes, absolutely.
Fantastic.
And Banky is ready to prepare it with his little pot, and yeah, it will be ready.
That is absolutely amazing. Now, I've got to tell you, Alexandra, we've got some questions for you from
really?
our audience.
Thank
Yes, we're all excited.
Thank
And
you so much.
my tummy's rumbling. I've got to all this drinks and food, and oh my gosh. So the question is, have you ever tasted this particular recipe yourself?
Thank you so much for the question. Okay, I will be very honest with you. I haven't. There's another recipe in this book from 1887. It's a different edition, and that's the one I tried. The one I just shared with you, I've never tried it, but I promised myself that just after the BookFest, I'm going to prepare it. So
oh my
I will
gosh.
be preparing it.
We want to see pictures. Once you've baked it, we want to see screenshots of
That's what I will
the
do.
pie.
I promise. I'm very curious about this recipe.
Yes, you and me both. I might have to try it myself. Next question. How did you come up with Bunky as a character?
Oh, thank you so much for the question. So, thank you so much. So, Bunky, I think that he was always a part of me deep inside. He's the main protagonist of this book, Bunky and the Worms. It's a Christmas story. And actually, I think that I've been just carrying Bunky just inside of me, like in my heart, since I was little. I've been a little girl, and actually, one day I just realized on reading the book that Bunky is very similar to me, and I just how Bunky came to life. Actually, it happened in 2019 during a conference in London, and then the whole character of Bunky was constructed, and he was born, so to speak. But the idea of Bunky was always within me. So he's like a very important figure in my life.
Now I've got to ask, once you had Bunky pop into your mind, what did you do next? Did you draw him yourself, or did you make him yourself? How did he actually come to physical life?
Thank you so much. So honestly, I started immediately thinking about his adventures, because this is how my mind works. I immediately imagine a character, and the character gains the whole life, or there's the whole plot behind the character. This is what I always do. I think about characters and their adventures. But firstly, Bunky came to my mind because during this conference in London, I just discovered beautiful store, and there was like a mascot, not Bunky, but a mascot that actually made me think about Bunky. This mascot was a hippo, and he had such an ambiguous face expression. He wasn't that happy at all. He was critical. He was a little ironic. And I thought, let's create a character that will be that natural and that, full of vivid emotions and imperfect, yet noble at heart, striving to be good, but just like us, just a little imperfect, a little ambiguous, natural, but with well-meaning, with good intentions. And this is Bunky, the imperfect but very noble character.
I love that. And it's so cute. He's so cute. It's unbelievable. I'll tell you, we've got some lovely questions coming up for you.
Thank you.
One lady asked, can you tell us more about Bunky and the Worms?
Oh, thank you so much. So of course, I would like to invite all our viewers to reach for Bunky's Adventures, where you will get to know Bunky, and he would love to become your friend. So Bunky is our little Bunky the hippo. He lives in the country of Wormland and in the city of Wormland village. And the Worms are Bunky's family. Mainly, he lives with his aunt and uncle Worm. And they're also very, very important figures in this book. He also has a cousin, Rodney. He's standing here in this beautiful sweater, actually knitted by my mom.
Oh, I love that.
Thank you, Princess. And also Plum and Morris. You will also find them in the novel. So I just thought they should
Oh,
not only live in the novel, but also with me and with the readers.
I absolutely love that. Now, do you sell merchandise for Bunky?
Yes, we
Uh,
do have merchandise. We have mascots, actually. So everybody can have
oh,
a Bunky and the Bunky Princess, and I invite you to visit my website, alexandratrinecka.com. There is a link. You can find a link on the website, and you can just invite Bunky and the Bunky Princess home.
I absolutely love that. And your link will be put in the comments as well for everybody. So you can just
Thank
go
you.
straight to Alexandra's website, etc. after the event. Now, will Bunky have their own series?
Oh,
Is
thank
it
you so
book
much.
one of many?
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. So Bunky and I are just in the middle of very secret activities, and yes, he will have further adventures, because I think that he has to be a complete character. And while writing the first part, I knew that he needs to become a full character. So he needed the second part, and I'm just doing it from my heart. So I hope that we can surprise you in a positive way.
Oh my gosh. So everybody needs to go to Alexandra's website so you can keep
Thank
posted
you.
on all the upcoming books, and follow Alexandra on Amazon as well. Because if you follow Alexandra on Amazon, you will get notified when she's got new books coming out. It is so exciting, so exciting. Okay, now can you describe what worms are?
Oh, thank you. This is a very good question. Actually, the worms, you can see, you can find the worms because I illustrated the book, and there are some pictures, some images of the worms. Aunt and Uncle Worm. Actually, they remind one of because they are different like creatures, so they remind me of like teddy bears a little bit. They are very fluffy, and they are different from Bunky because these are like different kinds of creature. Rodney is different, Bunky is different, the ones. So for example, in this illustration, you can see Aunt Worm just distributing hot chocolate on a wintry day. And here's the illustration. I don't know if you can see Aunt Worm,
Oh my
maybe not.
gosh,
Yes.
that's beautiful.
Yeah, so this is Aunt Worm.
Wow.
And actually, I just wanted to create a land filled with characters that are not really familiar, but thanks to this, everybody can find their place in this land. So we have Bunkies, we have worms, we have other creatures, and since they are so new in a way, I hope that everybody can enter this land and just feel embraced, feel befriended, and comfortable, and just find this story and characters relatable.
Oh my gosh, your imagination blows my mind. It is
So much.
absolutely amazing. I don't know how you managed to come up, or I mean, do the characters speak to you and introduce themselves, or
Oh, thank you
is
so
it just
much.
your?
I don't know. It's just like every character represents a piece of me. So Bunky is a lot like me, a lot, and Rodney is a little bit like me, and the Bunky and the Worms, like everybody is a piece of me. And then when I'm writing, it just flows because it's like the story is within you. So as long as I genuinely have a story to share, and it's genuine, it's natural, I'm going to share this story about Bunky.
Oh, well, thank you so much for joining us,
Thank
Alexandra.
you so much.
We are super excited for you. And everybody who's watching,
you.
don't forget, it is Christmas around the corner. So if you want to
Yes.
buy your children, nieces or nephews a beautiful book, you
Get
know where to
funky.
yes,
Yes.
you know where to find them. So please check out
Yes.
Thank you.
Alexandra's books. Thank you so much, darling, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you so
Bye,
much. I'm so happy to
Alexandra.
be with you. Bye.
Thank you,
Thank
darling.
you.
Bye.
I am so going to try that pumpkin pie. That sounds amazing.
I want the pumpkin pie, and I want Bunky and all the worms sitting on my back shelf here. Like, that
Oh
felt
my
like
gosh.
Christmas, and like I felt like I was in a Christmas wonderland, and I want to go hang out with her like right now.
Yes. Yes. When you get all the characters, I want to see photographs because that will look
Yes, I will
so
take a
cute.
photograph because they're gonna be my collector's items. They were the cutest ever. And if you
Oh
want to
my
talk about
gosh.
collector's items, this next one is a collector's item as well.
Do, do,
Who do we
do.
have?
We have the amazing Lisa Neva, award-winning travel writer and author of Bravish, and she shares how to banish your inner demons, awaken the hero inside you, and courageously craft an extraordinary life. Hello, Lisa.
Hi, it's so great to be here with you. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh my gosh, look at that book beauty. Hold it up again. Look at that. It is stunning.
I told you, a
Thank
collector's
you.
item.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Now, I've got to ask, because your books are amazing, can people order signed copies directly from you, from your website?
That's a great question. I'm working on that. I have been signing at events. I was just 2 days in New York City. On Monday and Tuesday, I was at Ad Week, and early in November, I'll be in Philadelphia at the Penn Bookstore. And I'm going to be in New Orleans in November. So it's very exciting. But yes, absolutely. People could message me on my website, lisaniver.com. And I'm happy to work that out. I've been sending them. But I know that there's something with Porchlight. I think I can arrange for them to take care of it.
Fantastic. Super exciting. So what was the inspiration for your books? You know, what sparks your enthusiasm?
So my book is a memoir, and I did 50 challenges before I turned 50 after my divorce to reinvent myself.
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine how life-changing that was for you. I mean, were you nervous to start doing your bucket list of what you wanted to do?
Well, what happened was I was traveling in Asia when I was married, and I came back to the United States alone, and I was here in Los Angeles. That's where I am today. And I literally was just crying my eyes out trying to decide what to do. And I told all my friends that I lived in Crazy Town and I was hoping for an upgrade to Sucksville.
Oh, bless you. Just want to give you a hug.
Thank you. I needed it. I was like a drowned river rat. I just was. And so I also found out at the same time, so this is my mid 40s, that my whole life I thought that I was clumsy and not very athletic, but it turned out I'm not clumsy. Something was wrong with my eyes.
Wow.
Yes, so I had all these problems growing up. I had all these accidents because of my eyes. And so during my divorce and I'm from LA, so there's a lot of kinds of therapy to go through. So I went to every kind of therapy, including vision therapy. And so my eye doctor actually started me on these challenges. He's like, Lisa, we've worked so hard on your eyes. You need to take this on the road. And so that was part of the inspiration. And in all honesty, the 50 challenges, I quit so many times. I was like, nope, not doing that. That's too scary. I can't do it. I don't want to do it. It's not happening. No, 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 no. But eventually I did the 50 things and they got more and more progressively challenging. And writing the book was the biggest challenge, but that's not even one of the 50 things. So who knows? Maybe that'd be another book about the writing of the book. It's so meta.
I absolutely love it. So your books are basically, you know, from your experiences of going through this whole new life, whole new transition. That's amazing, and I'm sure it's going to help so many other women. That's just crazy. But I've got to ask, which of your challenges was the hardest to do?
It's such a good question. There were a lot of them where I really didn't think I was going to make it. I got to go on the Olympic bobsled in Park City. And the day that I was, there's 2 bobsleds in the world that civilians can ride. And the day that I was doing that, earlier in the day, I had been skiing at the National Ability Center with a woman who's blind.
Wow.
And that was a great story I wrote for Sierra Club because I am a travel journalist. And so I was writing that story and then I was going to the bobsled. And my Uber driver, on the way to the bobsled to Olympic Park, I got really nervous. And I was like, maybe I'm not going to go. And he was former military. And he looked at me and said, are you trying to tell me that you skied with someone who's blind and you won't sit behind a professional driver for under a minute? I was like, well, I'm going now because you totally guilted me, but yes. So that was scary in one way, just like, 3 G's of force, and am I going to throw up and scream the whole way? But the hardest one for me was I had a terrible bike accident in the 70s when I was a little girl. And one of my challenges was I went mountain biking in Lake Tahoe at North Star on the ski hill.
Oh my gosh.
It was really scary. And it was a long story about how I got invited, but I had basically joked. I'm like, yeah, I'll come if you get me a teacher that doesn't mind crying. And I thought I was joking, but there was crying.
Oh my gosh. I tell you, you are incredible. You really, really are. Now I've got to ask you, have you had any friends who have read your books and then they've given you feedback on how much it's changed them and their lives, and because it must be so impactful?
It's actually very interesting. So friends of mine that have known me for a very long time have been reading the book, and they call me and laugh, and they'll be like, oh, I remember when that happened. And then I had a friend from high school that I've been out of touch with who read my book, and she basically every few chapters she would message me. And she'd be like, oh my God, I didn't know this happened. What do you mean you almost went on Judge Judy? I was like, well, yeah. That I had this weird thing happen with this dating company, and I sued them, and then Judge Judy wanted me to go on. She goes, oh my gosh, I'm sitting on the plane laughing out loud. And then she'd keep reading, and she'd be like, what do you mean this happened? I didn't know you were in a salsa dance team. And I was like, well, I was. And so it was just pretty funny that they would just keep seeing different sides of me. And after I moved back to LA in 2014 when I got divorced, so the last almost 10 years, basically it was like my marriage never happened. I got divorced, poof, goodbye. So my friend that read my book, and he actually interviewed me in Santa Monica. I had an event at Zibby's. He's an incredible journalist. He works for Bloomberg. When he read my book, he messaged me and he was like, what do you mean you used to be married? And I was like, well, I had a life before I met you. He's like, you never mentioned you were married or divorced or had a terrible relationship. And I was like, yeah, I guess that is weird for you, huh?
Oh my gosh. That's just incredible. Do you look back, recently, have you ever looked back and thought, holy crap, my whole life has changed. I've done all these challenges. I've written these books. I've been changing all these women's lives. Does it blow your mind to think that you've done all this?
It's been really great to get to this part. My book is out exactly 1 month. And so, the whole process of writing the book, writing about things that happened that were ugly in my life. I used to sit at my desk and write until I was so nauseous I thought I was going to throw up, and then I would lie on the floor. And so that was not fun. And then, the publishing process, I love my publisher. My book is published by Post Hill Press, but, there's a lot of back and forth and change this and do this. And this part's really fun, though. I really like having a book.
Yeah.
And my book is in the store windows and you can sign it. And this part I really love. So it has been great to hear from people that they are inspired to have their own list of 50 things, or that they also feel afraid, but they might try something new. And I love hearing from people about what challenges they're going to try next.
That's just incredible. And I've got to quickly ask you, because we're nearly there on time. Have you actually documented, photographs? Have you shared the photographs of all the different challenges and everything you've done?
So yes, I have a YouTube channel, which is my name, Lisa Niver. And on my YouTube channel, I am almost to 2 million views.
That is absolutely incredible. See, we all love brave women who go for it. I absolutely love it.
Yes.
Girl power.
So yes, there's videos of the bobsled, scuba diving with the bull sharks. And tomorrow, last week was my birthday. And in New York, my sister and I went on a doors off helicopter.
Oh gosh,
that is fun and exhilarating. I've done that.
Amazing.
It was amazing. I've been working on the video to put up tomorrow, and I'm hoping the Doors Off Helicopter birthday extravaganza is going to put my channel right over 2 million views, because I need like 7,000 more views to get to 2 million.
Oh my gosh! So
You'll
everybody
get it.
share,
Yeah.
everybody share, and a
Share.
happy birthday to you, my darling.
Happy
Oh my
belated
gosh,
birthday,
thank
Lisa.
you. No,
Thank you so
it's
much
not
for
the
being here.
thank you. It was so much fun to talk with you guys about Bravish.
Oh,
Yes,
you've got to
everybody
check
go
it out,
grab that.
everybody. Lisa,
Awesome.
thank you so much, my darling. It's a pleasure talking to you. And later on this evening, I'm going to be going through all YouTube videos.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
I'm going to live
bye.
precariously through you.
Awesome. Bye-bye.
Thank you, darling. Oh my gosh, what an amazing lady. Isn't that crazy?
Yes, that was
Oh my
amazing.
goodness.
Our next guest, who has been doing some amazing things in real life, and we're so excited to have him here. I almost didn't press the button so that you can read more about it, because I was like, real life. Sorry.
Oh no, bless her. I'll tell you, CJ, you got so many hats on. Bless you. We've got the amazing Herman DeBoard, US veteran turned entrepreneur and founder of my glasses are missing
Hover.
up.
Yeah.
Hover.
Yes.
Discusses the vice versa and how to evaluate your own beliefs to stop relying on what others tell you through critical thinking skills. That is amazing. Welcome, Herman.
Hi, thank you.
Welcome, and
Thank you for having me.
thank you for your service, Herman. We appreciate you.
I appreciate you saying that.
We certainly do. We're both from military families, so we're like, thank you very, very much. So, oh my gosh, where did all this begin, Herman?
After my time in the military, I went back to school. I finished my bachelor's, master's, PhD, all in communication studies. And so, I have been working in organizational communications for quite a few years. And then, in addition to that, starting and selling a few businesses along the way. But yeah, communication studies is fascinating to me. And, we live in a society right now, no matter what country you're in, it's a divided society. And so you're divided on, about 50 different fronts. Every topic is divided in some way or another. And so this book is about giving you the skills to recognize that you are on different teams, and there are leaders on those teams that are influencing you along the way. And it doesn't matter if it's team conservative and team liberal, or team gun control, or team Second Amendment, or team, it doesn't matter what the team is. You are on different teams and you are being influenced whether you like it or not. And so I'm trying to just give some people the ability to recognize that, and then to take a little bit of skill in researching for yourself and getting those critical thinking skills so that you're not influenced as much.
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? I think there's too many people who, well, as I said earlier, have their own beliefs, but not the confidence to actually speak out, are willing to discuss their opinions for fear of backlash or lack of self-confidence. Have you found that, your readers are definitely more confident after reading your book and think, okay, I have this belief and I am going to actually tell people about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's some people do get the confidence to talk about what they believe. And what I'm really looking for is to give people the skills to have a little bit of empathy to kind of see the other side as well.
Yeah.
Because we're so into this arguing and fighting about things, and I'm right and you're wrong. And if you just take the time to listen, the biggest part of communication, again, PhD in communication studies, the biggest part of communication is listening. And so if you don't have that listening skill, and you have walls up, and you don't have that ability to take in what somebody's feeling and what somebody's saying, you kind of lose that whole the ability to have perfect communication, because you have to have the sender and you have to have the receiver. And if that receiver is not listening and you're not having feedback, then you've lost it. And so I think that's kind of where we are in society today. One of the things I did that you might find interesting is I I walked into a dinner that was it was people I knew for the most part. There was only like 3 that I didn't know. And I just brought up the topic of diet, and I just said, hey, I'm going to change my diet. Does anybody have any ideas? Everyone at the table had a different idea. It was, you should go vegan. You should do this. I mean, everyone had their own passionate idea, and they had all been influenced in different ways. And I just thought it was fascinating that, you don't understand. It's not just sports teams. It's not just I'm a Broncos fan or I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. You're on all kinds of teams, and you don't even understand that you are, I don't think.
Do you know, it's really fascinating you say that, because it is so true. Literally so true. And you are, we are completely bombarded every time we open our phone, our laptop, our iPad, put the TV on. We are constantly being influenced without even realizing it. And the majority of us just go around like sheep, really just absorbing all this information that we're bombarded with constantly. But you're absolutely right as well about communication being the thing, and people and listening. And it's so funny you said that, because I was having a conversation with one of my friends, neighbors recently, and I'm going to say they, so you don't know who it is, but they started bringing up politics, and they came out with something very outlandish, and I didn't agree with it. So I very gently said, actually, you might want to look into your facts there, because I think you find this is what happened. And because I didn't agree, it was, no, I don't want to talk about that. No, I'm changing the subject. And my mouth must have just gone.
Yes.
I was stumped.
Yeah, you turn on the media. It doesn't matter if you're listening to the radio or watching television. You're taught to very much dislike, if not hate, the other side, no matter what that other side is. And politics is really bad, and no matter what country you're in. And then we've got country against country, and in the United States, we've got state against state, and we've got, everybody has different views, and everybody has different, but we've lost the ability to communicate effectively. And it's that effective communication that I think is creating this separation of people and separation of ideas. And, we have to get back to just effective communication in every aspect of life.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. What made you decide to actually, I'm going to put all this in writing. I'm going to make a difference. Did you have like a mission in mind, or did you just want to share your beliefs and your knowledge?
Yeah, I mean, and it's not about sharing my beliefs at all. It's about just getting people to understand that humanity is very different than our belief systems, and you don't have to hate your neighbor because they believe something different. You don't have to, it doesn't matter if it's black versus white, or we've got the gay versus straight. We've got so many arguments out there and so many sides that it's becoming to the point where you just don't have the ability to effectively communicate. And so I looked at myself and I just said, okay, whether I believe these people or not, or whether I agree with my neighbor, like you said, it doesn't mean I dislike them. It just means they have a different viewpoint than me. And so I have to have that ability to empathize and that ability to listen to them and to not dislike them at the same time. And so I wanted to share that in a book. And so I just took the time to write it down, and everything that I had learned in college and everything that I had learned in going to all these organizational communication talks that I do. And most of that, believe it or not, is just it's men and women and different cultures, and there is a difference of opinion on everything that's being done in an organization. And that's pretty much what's happening in society. And so I just wanted to kind of share that with people in a simple way with a lot of examples, so that people could maybe start to understand, maybe I'm doing this, and maybe I can be better at my communication in the future. That's really my goal.
That's absolutely amazing. Now, have you had readers reach out to you and say, do you know what? I didn't realize I was doing this, but when I read your book, I realized that I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I'm doing this, but I want to change.
I have actually, I did a talk the other day in Denver. I'm in Colorado, and I did a talk. It was a pretty intimate talk. There was about 20 people there, and we were talking about this subject. And I just wanted everybody to kind of, leave their their beliefs at the door for a minute and just kind of be with the people in the room. And I had several people in front of everybody say, you know what, I do this. I'm very biased in what I come to the table with. I think I'm right about everything, and I don't want to hear other people's opinions. And it's really interesting when you start to get the conversation going. It's just looking at yourself first and then seeing how you're seeing everybody else at the table. And if you can really just accept those people and get to the point where you can break bread with people and have a glass of wine with someone, you know, it's a freeing opportunity to just be with other people in a human situation and leave those politics aside for a minute. You don't have to hate people because of what their beliefs are. That's really what I'm trying to get across here.
So true.
I love that. Absolutely love that message. And I really hope that everybody buys your book, because we need some kindness and communication, and we need to bring respect back. You know, respect enough to listen to other people, absorb what they tell you, and go, do you know what? I totally understand what you're saying. Mm-hmm. I might have a different view on it, but I hear you.
I see you and I hear. It's kind of like the whole, you know, I do a lot of yoga and I'm a big fitness guy, but namaste means, you know, my soul sees your soul. And so if you can't see that other person, you don't understand them. And it doesn't mean you have to agree with them. I don't agree with half the people I talk to, but it doesn't mean I have to dislike them either. It means you have a different opinion. I see you as a person, and you can be whatever you want to be in life. But just respect me in the same sense.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Herman, thank you so much for coming on and being part of the BookFest family. Where can we find your books?
You know, the publisher is putting it out right now, again, on all bookstores. So, you know, I can't wait for this to take off. And I should have some other interviews coming up. I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Oh, well, we're so excited for you. So pre-order, everybody, pre-order. And if you follow Herman on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, etc., you will get notified on release dates and everything else. Thank you very much, Herman. We love you to bits. We appreciate you being with us. And on that note, we hope that everybody starts communicating a little bit better.
Yes, effectively. Thank you so much, Herman. Thanks for being here. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. What an amazing guy. We've had some amazing authors, haven't we?
Yes.
They're just incredible.
Golly.
Oh my gosh. My TBR is so huge right now. I've got to
right?
tell you.
I mean, it was already long.
It just got a lot longer, right, ladies?
Yes. I'm going to have to hide my Amazon account from my husband. No, I didn't buy all those books, darling. I don't know what you're talking about.
I just want to say, CJ and Beth, you guys are like magic together. Such an awesome job. Yeah, you guys did an awesome job. Thank you so much.